I'm Vicky Garcia. I came from Colombia in South America. I came to North Carolina to study and stayed. I found a credit union through a friend, and I started to volunteer 2001 with the credit union. We started the story of the credit union. It started as a grassroots movement of the Latino leaders here in Durham, and in conjunction with the Catholic Church here and the social services provider that was called the Centro Hispano at that moment, because the Latinos here in Durham were primary victims of robbery, and the rate of robberies within the Latino community was very high. So the leaders of these groups got together along with the State and Place Credit Union of North Carolina and Self-Help Credit Union here, just to create a solution for the problem, because the Latino community didn't have access to a banking institution, a financial institution.
So is the reason for the robbery that they were carrying lots of cash and that was well known?
Yes, they were carrying all. Most of our Latinos, what they do, they get paid in checks. They go to a check casher company. They cash their checks and they carry the cash in their pockets. They were called the mobile ATMs, and they were very easy to rob. They were always carrying cash with them. And actually, there were a couple of victims of these robberies, a couple of fatalities. So there was everybody said, it's enough. So they have to put an end to that. So these leaders of the credit union movement and also of the grassroots movement got together and created the Latino Credit Union. When I came to the U.S., the credit union had 1 year old. They were trying to put it together. We started in Main Street.
What year was that?
In 2001. So actually, the credit union started in the basement of the Catholic Church, the Immaculada Church, which is a couple of blocks down the street. And they started in the basement, and when they found finally the place, it was in Main Street, Old Vacovia branch. They adapted the State and Place Credit Union, put all the equipment to make it happen. And at that moment, they were looking for people to run the branch. Luis Pastor, who is actually currently the CEO of the credit union, started as a volunteer in that summer of 2001. He also came. He's from Spain, and he also came here with a spouse that was studying an MBA at Duke. So he was also in the position of looking to get something to do. And he started volunteering for 3 or 4 months, and then they hired him as the manager of the branch. When I came in, Luis was already employed, and I said I had banking experience in my country, about 8 years. Nothing to do. I'm willing to help the community, and they told me, of course, come on in. Let's get these things started. So I worked for the credit union as a volunteer for almost 2 years, just doing credit analysis, just talking to people, just gathering information about the needs of the community, and also designing products or adapting whatever products were available at the moment specific to our community. After I decided to stay in the United States, they offered me a full-time job here, and since then, in 2003, I have been working with the credit union and growing the credit union to what it is now. We have 55,000 members, 10 branches across the state in the main metropolitan areas. And I don't remember exactly how much in loans we have provided. It's like 100.
It's 105. Oh, in total?
Total.
I mean, I know what we have outstanding. I don't know. I can't remember either.
I can bring an impact statement and bring it to you, but it's more than $100 million in loans that we have provided to our members.
So for the Latino community that was unbanked before the credit union, what was the barrier to them using the more traditional or available financial institutions in town, and what made the credit union different and able to reach them?
There was a language barrier, a very big one. Most of the immigrants in North Carolina are new immigrants. The Latino population increased in the early 2000s about 400%. So, and they were all first generation, so they all spoke Spanish. They speak Spanish. So when they went to Bank of America or any big financial institution, they were with that shock of not being able to communicate to them. A second barrier is documentation. For them, it was very difficult to provide what the banks were asking them to provide to open an account. And the credit union designed a way that we can serve the membership, and they are providing foreign documentation that we can accept as an ID, for instance, or the matrícula consular. I don't know if you have heard of it. It's an ID that the Mexican consulate gives to all the Mexicans that are living here in the States, and it's a valid ID to open an account. So those types of the documentation, we accepted those, and normally the big banks don't. Third is access to credit. Most of new immigrants don't have a credit history here in the U.S. So when you go to a mainstream financial institution with no credit at all, they're going to charge you very high interest rate, or they're going to deny you because you don't have any credit. So we created products that were designed to that first immigrant. So they could buy their first car, their first credit card, their first personal loan, and a very affordable interest rates. What was happening is that our members here in North Carolina, you have to have a car in order to work. So they went to these lots, buy here, pay here, and they were charging them interest rates of 30% or so for a car. So we were able to offer at that moment, at that time was 11 or 12% interest rates for the exact same car, and making them save a lot of money. So that's why the credit union was created.
And so for those kinds of loans where there wasn't any sort of traditional credit score or anything like that, what kind of alternative ways were you able to assess the risk in those situations, or was character or community involvement, was that has that been a factor in the decision-making process? What does that look like?
The way that we designed the product is that when somebody goes to another country and risks their lives to go there, there's character there. I mean, they're willing to do whatever they need to do to survive, and to do whatever they need to do to feed their family back home. So we knew that we were dealing with an excellent character from the beginning. So what we needed extra was documentation to prove that that was the case. So we started to give loans with just 2 utility bills, proving that you at least have a home and you have paid your gas or your electricity, and enough down payment to prove that you have been able to save something. So we started, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was 10% down payment or minimum $1,000 to buy a car. So those were the 2 things that we were asking. we have learned down the path that we needed to also make sure that we have some type of rent reference if the person is living with someone, unless that they are paying something. Because the other thing is that our community moves where the jobs are. So it was very difficult for us to locate them after a while. So that was another thing that we added with time. But definitely being part of the Latino community is one of the things that, I won't say Latino, but the immigrant community is one of the things that made us make that decision so easy. We serve also people from Africa, a lot of people from Africa that has come to North Carolina, from Kenya, from Niger and Nigeria, from those countries. North Carolina is one of the refugee settlements here in the States, and we serve that community as well because they have the same needs. Basically, they need a car, they need the first loan, they need the first checking or savings account, and it's the same product.
And so, from the beginning, what is the common bond of the credit union been, and has it changed at all as you've kind of expanded? And
yeah, the organization that created the credit union at the beginning was called Centro Hispano, the sponsor organization. And it provided social services to the community. Basically, it helped people find jobs, attorney services, health services, and those kind of things. When we opened our branch, and this organization was located here in Durham, when we opened our branch in Charlotte, we asked them to also, because since it's the sponsor organization, we needed them to be where we were. And they decided not to go to another cities because they didn't have the resources at the moment to handle it. So we created a partner organization that is called the Latino Community Development Center, LCDC. And it's our sponsor organization, and what the organization does is that it provides financial education to the membership of the Latino Community Credit Union. So we created the whole financial education branch or arm of the credit union is handled through that organization.
And so the connection with the Catholic Church, I'm kind of interested if you could talk a little more about that. The Catholic Church has, the very first credit union in North America was, created within a church parish. So what has that relationship been like?
We have been working with them very closely. Actually, we were in their basement when we started the credit union, while they were, putting everything together to open the branch. So they lent us that space. Also, it has been a key pillar for us on referring and helping us grow the credit union. The bishop, he was part of our board for 5 or 7 years, and that also helped us spread the word around the state to make sure that all the people that went to the Catholic Church knew that we were there to help the community and serve them. Nowadays, we still have that very close relationship with them. We go to, after the Mass, we go there, we have our information desk there, we have a very close relationship with each of the parishes, and it has been key in the growth of the credit union, definitely.
And what are sort of other ways that you guys have been able to reach out and really build that? You said you have 55,000 members. Sort of build those connections and bring people in and kind of communicate that this is really sort of a trustworthy and organization that's part of their community.
Our outreach strategy has varied with time. At the very beginning, honestly, we didn't have to do much because the need was so great that everybody was coming. It was just word of mouth, and people were just coming in. After a couple of years, we created these relationships with all the social services organizations that were in the cities that we were in. So we went to their events. We participated in forums and everything that we could to spread the word. We also had a very close relationship with the Mexican consulate. So, and they have the mobile consulate that goes town to town to serve their community, and we went with them alongside opening accounts. After they got their matricula consular, they went with us, and they opened afterwards their account with us. So we had this very close relationship with them, and I think that was the time when we grew the most. Also, we have very close relationships with non-profit organizations that work with the refugee community, with low-income individuals that refer people to us that have the same needs, no access to credit or to having a checking or a savings account. And also through not only the Catholic Church, but also all type of religious organizations. We have also close relationship with different pastors that have big Latino communities, Latino populations that go to their churches. So they call us, please, we need your help with this big problem. So that's the way we have spread the word out.
And I imagine that there's been some tension around your work with you sort of working with undocumented immigrants. How has that kind of played out within the organization and kind of in your work?
We follow whatever policies that we do internally to accept and open accounts. Is actually within the policies of the organizations to accept or not accept certain type of documentation for people to have accounts with them. We don't participate politically in any of the pro-immigration or no-immigration. We just sit on the sidelines and serve the community that needs us. Fortunately, hasn't been an issue in the community that we move or here in the state. We try to help other organizations to be able to serve undocumented immigrants, because there are big misconceptions of what a financial institution can or cannot do. So we are very strong advocates of serving that.
Can you speak to some of those misconceptions?
That you cannot open an account to an undocumented immigrant, for instance, and that's not correct. You can, as long as you can identify the person and you have a government-issued ID, doesn't matter what government, you can open an account. You can also pay them interest in their account. They just have to have a tax identification number that the IRS gives to everybody. And also that they cannot give credit to this community, and that's wrong as well, as long as they have an ID and a tax ID, so the financial institution can report the interest that it's receiving from this person. There's no issue there. So it's a matter of a political decision of the board of directors of the different financial institutions more than anything. But the legal frame to do it is there. You can serve the community without any problems. There's also a misconception about the risk that this community may represent, and our history has showed that all the country is not a big risk. Actually, our delinquency is lower than a lot of the credit unions that are peers of ours. For instance, during the financial crisis, the foreclosure crisis and all that, our delinquency was below the average. During the whole crisis, in a mortgage portfolio of around 700 houses, we had 3 foreclosures. So that was nothing. I mean, that's normal within a normal economic environment. So those are the things that we're trying to prove to other financial institutions so they can serve the community that have this huge need.
So you mentioned, it being kind of a decision of the board. Can you talk a little bit about kind of how governance works and plays out? As it's a democratic cooperative. What does member involvement look like? Annual meetings, the composition of the board, all that.
The board of directors was the original board of directors was elected with the participation of the different organizations that founded the credit union. So we had a representation from the Catholic Church, from Self-Help Credit Union, from the State Employees Credit Union, and a couple of leaders of the community that we served. From that point on, we have tried to involve membership as much as we can, so they can also vote on the issues that represent governance. So we do an annual membership meeting. We try to do it in May or June every year. And we also do it along with the graduation of our financial education program. So we have assistance and participation of around, 600 people, between 500, 600 people. And the period where people can nominate persons for the board is from now till, I think, like 15 days before that annual meeting. And we try to reach the community to try to generate that participation. We created advisory boards within our branches to try to generate a pipeline for people that can go into the board. To be honest with you, that didn't work very well because those committees became like a customer service type of clean committee, and we didn't get the involvement that we wanted from the community. So we went away from that, and what we're trying to do is trying to reach to the leaders of those different organizations that help the community to participate in the board. So right now we have 6 members in our board. One is from State Employees Credit Union, who currently provides our back office services of the credit union. The CEO of First Carolina Corporate Credit Union is also part of our board. He was the CEO of Habitat for Humanity. He's also part of our board. He retired while he was on the board. Cynthia, she works with a non-for-profit organization that works directly with the Latino community. And John Herrera, who is he works at Self-Help Credit Union and also is an advocate for the Latino community, and he also does politics and a lot of stuff. So he's really, really involved with the community. So, and a couple of volunteers as well that are involved directly with the community. So that's the way the board is composed right now.
And so, kind of members coming in from, have you found that from their experience in their home or in their countries of origin, that they have experience with being part of a co-op in their past, or is this for a lot of people really their first experience of being a member of a cooperative? Actually,
it has been hard because the experience of cooperatives in Latin America has not been very good. Mexico had a very large crisis in the 1980s. A bunch of credit unions went bankrupt, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. And in Mexico, the credit unions are not backed by the government, so if whatever savings you had there, you lost them. And that also happened in Colombia in the beginning of the 90s, and in different Central American countries, in Guatemala and Nicaragua as well. When the economy is not very good, they bankrupt and people lose their savings. So for us, it has been very difficult to convince people to join the credit union. trying to clean the image, saying here the way the system is totally different. It's back the government. Your savings are secure up to $250,000. Nothing's going to happen to your money. All those kind of things has been very difficult to do with the community, to generate that trust and cross that barrier. People who has worked with food co-ops or farmers co-ops or those type of co-ops are more likely to join without any problems because they understand the system better, and they feel more comfortable with it. But people who only used credit unions, financial credit unions in their countries, they're like, I don't know how this is going to work, and the trust there is an issue.
So one other thing I'm wondering about, just working with an immigrant community, one of the big financial service that they use is remittances. Has your credit union been able within the regulatory structure to participate or help with that at all, or what have you been able to do?
We, at the very beginning, we worked with WOCU, with the World Council of Credit Unions, with their RNet program, and with Vigo to send remittances back to Latin America, basically. The program was very, very successful, and we were the biggest credit union in the country sending remittances back to Latin America. The contract between Vigo and the RNet network ended, and we found with the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta a service that is called Directo Mexico. And that service has helped us continue to provide the service. And they also opened a new service to some of the countries in Central America and some of the countries in South America that is called Fed Global. So we're still participating with them in sending remittances back to Latin America. So the product that they have is great. They have the best foreign exchange rate because they use the FedEx rate, and they apply it to whatever remittances they're sending to each of the countries. So you get the advantage of the volume that they handle and the convenience of just sending it directly to a bank account or a pickup center in Latin America. So we have worked very, very closely with them, and it has been very successful, actually.
And what impact has your growth had on the people's use, the rate of use of things like check cashing services or other higher cost remittances or payday lending, things like that?
Payday lending is illegal in North Carolina, so we don't have payday lenders. Just for the record.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have in-store payday lenders. I mean, they're still computer lenders, but
yeah. So the University of Virginia, see.
Yeah.
The University
Darden
of Virginia, Darden School of Business made a study, and actually I can give you a copy of that, of the impact of the credit union on the communities that we sit in. And we didn't know. It was, for us, it was eye-opening when we saw the report. We didn't ask for it. The Darden School of Business did the study because they are trying to convince some credit unions or the credit union movement in Virginia to serve the immigrant community. They don't have the same Latino credit union there. So they did the study to prove what the impact was. And they found that the robbery rates decreased. I don't remember how much.
Yeah, overall crime rates and.
Don't remember exactly the numbers.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
But it was like something like between 20 and 30% or something like that. We were amazed by that. Also, the value of the houses of the community around the credit union increased. I don't remember the numbers. I'm sorry about with that, but the report has all those numbers. It's like $4 billion in the whole state, and the usage of obviously cash checkers and those guys also decreased, and the savings of the people that we serve as well. So the impact is great, and we were very happy to read the report because we didn't know we weren't tracking that. So, and I can give you a copy so you have all the real data.
Cool. And then, in terms of, you're talking about them thinking about setting something, or trying to convince credit unions in Virginia to serve the immigrant community. Are there other peer organizations or in other parts of the U.S. that are doing similar things that you're doing, that you're able to sort of look to and kind of share practices back and forth with, or is this really the pioneer?
It's really funny because sometimes I receive calls from Florida, Texas, or California, and that you would think they already solved this issue. No, they have very big Latino immigrant communities, and I'm amazed they don't. They have come to us to teach them how to do it. You are like, North Carolina is not a Latino state at all, or an immigrant state, and we have been the pioneers in doing what we do.
I will say there's a history of immigrant communities helping each other and forming like immigrant banks, or like there's a German bank and things like that. So there's kind of that. If you look throughout history, there's kind of a broad history of kind of excluding people.
And in the north where you come from,
creating kind of their own system. But there's no one. There's no one that.
There are some credit unions in Texas along the border. Actually, one is called Border Federal Credit Union. They're trying to reach, but it's a little bit different because it's the population that move back and forth from Mexico to the U.S. They live in Mexico, but they work in the U.S. So it's a little bit different, but they're trying also to serve that community. And there was another in El Paso, in Texas, and we have helped a couple credit unions, one in Ohio, Nueva Esperanza Credit Union, also to set up and start doing what we're doing here, and in California as well. But there's none like us.
And so one of the things, just when you were talking about the state employees credit union providing some of the back end stuff, so for other groups, if they're wanting to start something similar, what is that kind of partnership with the sort of more existing highly capitalized credit union look like? That's
part of one of our key success factors, I think. Because when you start a credit union and you don't have to think about the operations, you can really focus on the community that you're serving. So any of the big credit unions that are in all the states, so the state employees, or I don't know, the military credit unions, so those kind of credit unions are the ones who can provide probably those partnerships and help the little ones. They can also create QSOs. QSOs, are you familiar with the QSOs? So they can probably pull all their forces together and generate like an operations center to serve all these smaller credit unions, so they can really focus on the community. Because when they launch these new credit unions and they try to serve the community by themselves, they get burned by the operational weight normally. So it's for us, I think, is one of our key success factors that we were able to have that relationship with the state employees credit union, definitely.
And for members who oftentimes don't have challenges around when they're the low income transportation, things like that, does the credit union have any kind of sort of community opportunities to do sort of the banking stuff, or is everything really based in the branches? Everything
is based in the branches. We have considered mobile branches to reach rural areas, and wow, every time we name the mobile bank or the mobile credit union, the board gets. But we have tried. One of the things that we have the advantage of the relationship with the state employees credit union is that we have access to their ATM network, and that has helped us that to have that broader impact in the community, because they have 1,200 ATMs in the state versus Bank of America that has 600 ATMs. So the network is huge, and is in all the, not only the metropolitan areas but also the rural areas. So when we did these outreach events with the Mexican consulate or with the Catholic Church, that we go there, open the accounts, they have a place they can go and do their financial transactions through the ATM, because we have the footprint there. So, and that has helped us a lot.
And what do you see as kind of looking to the future for the organization? What are kind of some of the challenges and opportunities that
we want to have 500 million in assets. In how long? 3 years, we said?
No,
5 years?
2020,
so 6 years. Yeah, that's our goal. So we want to consolidate the credit union. We are in the ending process of a branch expansion. We want to consolidate that and make sure that we're sustainable for the future. So we are gonna work on being able to serve better our members. A lot of our members, they just have a savings account. They come, they catch their check, and they leave. They don't have any other services with us. So the challenge that we have right now is to convince those members to have a broader spectrum of what the organization can bring to them, and help them have a checking account with us, transactional services with us. Most of our members have a mobile phone, and they don't use us. I mean, they don't access the account through their mobile phone with us. So we are in an education process. We can call it like that, with our members. We need to make them think as a credit union as their financial institution for all their needs. Because sometimes they just come because they need a savings or a checking account for them to receive the check, and that's it. Or they come because they need that loan, and that's it. And for us, we have the challenge to convince them to bring all their businesses with us. They don't do it elsewhere anyways, but so we need to educate the community so they use us more. I think that probably we're in that consolidation stage right now, and when we feel stronger again, we will expand, I guess, to where we need it. We'll see. Yeah, we don't have plans yet, so we'll see where we go. But yeah, we're in a consolidation state right now.
Cool. So any final thoughts or observations or advice to people who might want to try to undertake a similar effort elsewhere?
Be open-minded. Not all the things that are there are what it is. You have sometimes to be creative to serve a community that normally the main financial stream system doesn't serve. So be creative, open, and make sure that if you serve a community, you serve it with all the services that you can provide to them. Not only a remittance and that's it, or a loan and that's it, or a checking account and that's it. People need full access to all the financial services that we can provide to them, so they can grow economically as well. So, and we can empower also the community. So I'll say that.